So the outline for today is to talk about the what, why, who, when, how, where, etc. So we're going to answer multiple questions regarding each and every one of them. And those are not mutually exclusive. Some of them, the what and the why, sometimes they interconnect and intersect. So let's begin with the what. In the what, we're going to answer 5 main questions. Number 1, what is zakat? And under what is zakat, we're going to answer 5 questions. And some of those questions are also related to the why and the who. First of all, what is zakat? As you all know, zakat has a lexical meaning and has a meaning in the Sharia. And before we talk about the meanings of zakat, let us remember that Islam is built upon 5 pillars. The first pillar is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. The second pillar is prayer. The third pillar is zakat. The fourth pillar is Sawm. And the fifth is Hajj. But those pillars are interconnected. How are they interconnected? Before I continue, let me just clarify one thing. This workshop is for us individuals, i.e. for those who are paying zakat, the giver of zakat. This workshop is not for the distributor of zakat. Like the community here, MCC, collects zakat and distributes them. To distributing zakat requires a different workshop. But we will come across, we will talk a little bit on what's involved in distributing zakat. And the community here, mashallah, is expanding, is maturing. And the more the community matures, the more the community will have to take an added on responsibility as explained by our ulama. For most of the people here, they follow the Hanafi school, and the Hanafi school has a particular requirements for leaders of communities. So we'll talk about that maybe when the time comes. So these pillars of Islam, the 5 pillars, when someone embraces Islam, when someone becomes a Muslim, when someone says, I too believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and believe in the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam as a messenger of God. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. What this person is saying, I am now part of this family. I'm joining this community. I'm joining this ummah. I'm now a member of this ummah. إنما المؤمنون إخوة. The family of believers. All human beings are one family because we all go back to Adam alayhi salam. That's an extended family. But within this larger family, there is a smaller family, a more focused family, which is a family of believers. Once I say La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah, I'm part of that family. I have rights and have responsibilities. As a member of this family, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also told me we have to pray. Prayer is an act of worship. Give zakah. Giving zakah is an act of devotion, it's an act of worship. Fasting is an act of worship. Hajj is an act of worship. However, if we look at zakat and fasting, those two pillars of Islam were legislated in the second year of Hijrah, the second year after Hijrah. Fasting was legislated in Sha'ban, the second year after Hijrah. And around the same time, zakat was also legislated. But before the second year of Hijrah, 50% of the Quran, or more than 50%, was already revealed in Mecca. 84 surahs were revealed already in Mecca. They're short surah, that's why they're not like 2/3 of the Quran, they're like 50% of the Quran. And in those 50% of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenged the believers and established that all believers must take care of each other. All believers must take care of the orphans. All believers must take care of the needy. So within the framework of theology, within the framework of Islamic theology and philosophy, there is this embedded revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the Muslims are one body and that they take care of each other. So although zakat was legislated in Sha'ban, or in the second year of Hijrah, a lot of the implications of zakat were already revealed in the Meccan period. It became official in the second year of Hijrah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about sadaqah, charity. And charity is of two kinds. There is mandatory charity and a charity that is not mandatory. A charity that is not mandatory we call sadaqah. And it comes from sidq. It comes from truthfulness. Because it testifies to the truthfulness and genuineness of our faith, of the faith of the person given sadaqah. And there is sadaqah that is mandatory, which is we call zakat. Right. Now, the first pillar, it makes all of us one family, one community, one ummah. We're now part of the family. The second pillar talks about the prayer, i.e. we're told to pray. We're told to pray individually. We're told to pray amongst our families. We're told to pray amongst our communities in jama'ah, salatul jama'ah. And the Muslims, the early Muslims, used to pray the 5 prayers in jama'ah, in congregation. Because in addition to being an act of worship, Islam is showing us how we can build a community. These 5 pillars are the foundations of building communities. Because when we pray together, all 5 prayers, some people pray in a building. They have one room that's a musalla for the 5 prayers. They pray 5 times a day and they know each other. They get to know each other. They get to know whether someone is in trouble or not from the body of their language. As we pray together the 5 prayers, we realize that not all of us are having a good time. Maybe some of us are struggling. Maybe some of us are, they have to skip a meal in order to put food on the table for their family. Maybe some of us are behind paying bills. When we pray in a community, some of us may notice these things. And that's the job of the community leaders. There always has to be people who know what the local needs are in our community. We cannot wait until they come to us and tell us we are in need. If we are one community, we are aware of what's going on in that community. And prayer is one of the greatest social institutions of Islam. The first thing we do as Muslims when we migrate to a new area, the first thing we do is we establish mosques. When we establish mosques, people start coming. We start praying together. We pray as a community. In the Hanafi school, after you establish a mosque, you have to establish a judge. A judge that can arbitrate and resolve conflict amongst the members of the communities. Our communities are still small, and as they mature, you need to have like a judge, like a figure that everyone respects. All of us respect and we go to when we have issues and problems. But that's a different workshop for communities. Now comes zakat. Zakat works within this big picture. There is a big picture for zakat. The 5 pillars are working together. And we realize that in zakat there are constraints. The first constraint is that zakat can only be paid to Muslims. A charity can be paid to anyone. It can be paid to non-Muslims. It can be paid to animals, taking care of animals. It can take on many forms. But there is a specific charity that is mandatory, and one of the constraints on that charity that it's only paid to Muslims. Paid only to Muslims. This is our duty toward our brothers who are part of this community or part of the Ummah. And one of the second constraints, ideally, community zakat is paid in a localized fashion. I.e., we don't export zakat elsewhere, ideally. So it's paid in the same locality as it's collected. The Prophet ﷺ, when he used to send people, like he sent Mu'adh bin Jabal to Yemen, then he sent Imam Ali to Yemen. He sent Imam Ali as a judge. That was his job over there. He sent Mu'adh bin Jabal, first of all, to invite the people of the book to embrace Islam. And he told him, the first thing you do, أخبرهم أن there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. That's the first thing you teach them. Then after that, you teach them about prayer, you teach them about the 5 pillars. And the third job Mu'adh bin Jabal he had to do, he had to administer zakat, collect zakat, and then give it back to those who are eligible for zakat. What is a mosque? A mosque is a place that you don't own it, I don't own it, nobody owns it. It's dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this mosque we show our one brotherhood of faith, where we're all worshipping God and obeying His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The entire community gets anchored around the mosque. When we talk about zakat, zakat must only be paid to Muslims. Ideally, it's collected within a city or a region and distributed in the same region. It can also be paid elsewhere, but ideally, because every region have needs, even in countries where they pay pension from the government, people still have needs. In the UK, which is a welfare country, people still have needs. In the US, it's the same thing. So this is part of the character of zakat, to work within this big picture. I have to start asking myself this question: who are the believers around me? When I come to the mosque, who are the believers around me? Are they all doing well? So there needs to be some people who know the local needs. Oh, this person is a new Muslim. Maybe they need something. Oh, this family has moved recently to our community. They're our neighbors. We need to find out about them and see if we can help them in any way. Do they need a hand? Whenever there is a community, Muslims are supposed to take care of each other. Because when they do so, they hold their hand together and they grow together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us, Allah is with the jama'ah, God is with the group. So as Muslims, we experience faith in communities. We strengthen each other. We remind each other. تواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. We pick each other. We pick each other up. If somebody is falling down, we pick them up. And we all walk together toward the finish line. We want everyone to get to the finish line safely and accomplish that goal. If you look at salat and zakat, they're always mentioned together. أقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. And together they're mentioned around 28 to 30 times in the Quran. The term sadaqah is mentioned many times more. So this أقيموا الصلاة and آتوا الزكاة is emphasized in the Quran. Emphasized not in a normal way, let's put it this way. Because salah brings people in the same space. And zakat ensure that those who are in need are taken care of. So care for the needy. Have concern for each other. That's part of the nature of the Islamic message and part of the nature of the 5 pillars. Saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah makes us one family. Prayer makes sure that we pray together and we get to know each other. And many people don't tell you that they are in need, but you can notice because they have dignity. And then we have fasting. We're fasting individually between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this is manifested also in communities, in Taraweeh and elsewhere. And then Hajj, it's a global event where the whole Ummah goes to Mecca, or a delegation from the Ummah goes to Mecca and experience this representatives from the family, from all over the world. The masjid is like a melting pot, and Mecca is like a huge melting pot, where you see people from all walks of earth, all kinds, all worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Zakat, when we look at it, it's not an income tax. And it's also not a wealth tax. It's the divine plan in eternity is that zakat should be is done in a way that it's not a burden on people who give zakat. And why is that? Because it's not a burden, because this is embedded in the meaning of zakat itself. So when we look in zakat, the meaning of zakat in Arabic, the lexical meaning, there are multiple meanings, 5 or 6 meanings. But the two broad meanings in the language is that zakah means purification and growth. Purification, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, خذ من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها وصل عليهم إن صلاتك سكن لهم. So, O Prophet, take from them. Take, this is a command, i.e. this sadaqah here, this charity is not the regular charity, it's a mandatory charity. Take alms out of their property to cleanse them and purify them with it. And pray for them. Your prayer will be a comfort for them. Allah is all hearing, all knowing. So when we look at the meaning of zakat, we see that it's called zakat because one's wealth grows through the blessings of giving it and the prayers of those who receive it. And because it purifies its giver of sin and extols him by testifying to the genuineness of his faith. Sadaqah is from genuineness, from sidq, from being truthful. And zakat is purification and growth. I.e., we will see zakat is not on, there is no zakat on fixed asset. Zakat is on something that grows. And someone might say, well, I'm paying 2.5% of my money. Where is the growth? We will see how that works. But just to give an example to illustrate this point, imagine you're a farmer. And if you know how farmer works, what they do, they plant trees and then they prune the tree. They prune the tree, they cut it in certain places. They don't allow it to grow on its own. Because when a tree grows on its own, it doesn't grow very well. But when you prune it properly, it grows all of a sudden and reaches its full potential. And that's what we're doing here with money or with our wealth. We're pruning our wealth every year so that it can grow better. On the surface, it seems that our wealth is decreasing. But in reality, it's increasing, either in this world or in the next. In the language also, when we talk about increase, it's increase in both quantity and quality. So when you prune a tree, it allows it to increase not just in quantity, but also in quality. Quality of the fruits it produces. And that's embedded in the meaning of the term zakat. In the Sharia, in the Islamic law, zakat means that there is a particular amount of property that must be paid to certain kinds of recipients. And the recipients in zakat are 8 categories. And they're all mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah, as we will talk about, under the conditions mentioned in the books of Fiqh, in the books of law. But there is a particular point in zakat that we should be aware of, if the time doesn't allow us to go over the verse in details. which is that in zakat there has to be a transfer of ownership. إنما الصدقات للفقراء. للفقراء. This lam is what is called in Arabic lam التمليك. It's a lam of ownership or the transfer of ownership. And this has implications on when we give zakat. Sometimes when it comes at the end of the year, I may remember, oh, you know what? I gave this person $200 2 months ago. Can I consider it a part of zakat? Maybe not. Because there has to be a transfer of ownership. Or I paid the debt of someone on his behalf. Can I consider it part of zakat? Maybe not. No, there has to be a transfer of ownership. I transfer ownership to that person, and he does with it whatever he likes. It's not up to me to dictate to him how he should spend it. Right. So it's a transfer of, there must be a transfer of ownership, and this transfer of ownership can be qualified or unqualified, i.e., once I make the transfer of ownership, I cannot take it back. In most cases. In some cases, I can make a transfer of ownership and then take it back. So the community or the imam or the government or the department of zakat, we will see that zakat requires a ministry, a department, a bureau of zakat, because it touches 24 layers of society. It touches around 24 layers of the community that we may not be aware of. In our mind, zakat is only, I give drop by drop to someone who is in need. It's like I'm doing them a favor. No, I'm not doing them a favor. I'm doing myself a favor. Because the first beneficiary of zakat is the person himself, the giver themselves. Because zakat means purification and growth. I am the first one to benefit. And I should be thankful to those who are in need or those who are eligible to receive zakat. Because if there was no one to receive zakat, I'm going to be in big trouble if I have money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me to give, to purify my wealth because it's polluted by whatever I'm doing in the year, and allow it to grow properly, and I can't find anyone to give zakat to. Right? So let's go back to our issues. What is zakat? So we talked about zakat, and we'll talk about the philosophy or the wisdom and the benefits behind zakat, at a later time if time allows. So first of all, the question is, what are the zakatable assets? i.e., is zakat paid on all wealth, everything I own? Well, zakat is not paid on everything you own, it's paid on a growing wealth. So zakat rules are revealed to minimize the burden of zakat. Let's say you're a farmer, you have lots of sheep, you have lots of goats, you have lots of cows, you have lots of camels. Or you're a farmer, you have crops, you have palm date trees, you have grapevines, you have all these things. Well, if you have 400 sheep, and sheep are always producing new sheep, there is no burden in giving 1 or 2 sheep away, because you're always, every season you're going to have 30, 40, 50 baby sheep. So it's designed in a way that We're not going to go to your home and say we need this room to be paid as zakat. No, it's taken from things that can grow. The same thing with fruits and crops. There's always a replacement every season, every year. Same thing with money. The more you work, you make $100,000 at the end of the year, maybe you have $20,000, zakah on that, and it's 2.5%. So zakat is not on something that cannot be replaced or cannot grow, in principle. So only the wealth that people try to grow is zakatable. That's in principle. We're not going to ask you to, the Sharia will not ask us to sacrifice something that cannot be replaced. But if the Sharia tells me, give me a little bit of your hair, well, I can trim my hair and my hair can grow back. That's what zakat is like. And at the same time, you're strengthening the bond within the community or the locality that we're in. So when we look at the zakatable assets, we have to look at the human social organizations. How do humans usually organize themselves? They organize themselves initially as Bedouins living in the desert. They have sheep, they have goats, they have camels, they may have cows, they have horses. Or they organize themselves around lands, and they work as farmers, agriculture. So human beings usually organize themselves around certain economies. They perform certain economic activities. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, many of the companions had cattle, had livestock, camels, cows, and sheep. Sheep includes both mutton as well as goats. It's one category. In the Hanafi school also, there could be zakat on horses. And camels include all kinds of camels. We're not going to go over camels because it's very complicated, the zakat on camels. But camels was something very essential for Muslims around the time of the Prophet ﷺ. In North America, do you think we have camels? What do you think? Actually, camels were actually from North America. But thousands of years ago, they were wiped out. And today, there is around 3,000 camels in the US. There's actually one brother, I heard about one brother who has a camel farm in California. And he was asking, how do I pay zakat on camels? Why do you need to do that? You're in the US. Oh, I have a farm. There are still around 3,000 camels, but in private hands. Camels were brought around 1850 to the US from India and from Afghanistan and from Arabia. And they were used to transport goods from San Antonio to Los Angeles. So Texas and California had lots of camels. Australia was built on camels that were imported from India and from Afghanistan. The cameleers came. Because camels they can survive the desert of Australia. So they use them a lot. Whether camels have 2 humps or 1 hump, they're zakatable. Same thing with cows. Bison is considered a cow. Buffalo is considered a cow in terms of zakat. And then sheep. We're not going to go over that. So the zakatable is we have the animal herding. We also have crops. We're not going to go over the zakat of crops because that's not what most people are experiencing, at least in California. Unless you have a farm, then we can go over them. What we're going to concern ourselves with today is zakat on money, on trade and services. So money in property and wealth in all of its aspect. Let me see here. On livestock, we're not going to go over livestock. We're not going to go over crops. We're going to go over gold and money, including gold and silver, and trade goods, i.e. if you're a businessman dealing with trade goods. That's what you pay zakat on. And there is zakat also on mines and treasure troves. We're not going to go over these, unless you have a mine in South Africa or somewhere extracting gold and silver. We're not going to go over this. Right? So for our purpose, what we're concerned about is what is zakat on money, on wealth, on property, and what are the conditions? And trade goods. That's what we're concerned about. And all these modern tools or instruments we use, like stocks, like crypto, like Bitcoin, like whatever, they fall under these categories. If you're trading in stocks, or you're buying stocks, or you have a pension plan or retirement plan, you have RRSP like in Canada, you have 401k like in here, we can always transfer them or categorize them under these categories. So knowing these categories will allow us to compute our zakat. And the formula is pretty simple. It can become complicated. It's pretty simple. And my advice is that we develop an awareness of how to compute and calculate zakat. And we do, there are many apps online, but we don't know the formula they're using. So my advice would be, make sure you do a first order approximation of your zakat, and then you check it with your local imam for any details or any questions, any specific questions you have. All right. So what is growing wealth? Growing wealth, as we said, it's money, gold, silver, and trade stock, merchandise, goods. All of these are zakatable assets. All of these are subject to grow. They can grow. So every and all other modern instrument must be based on one of these four categories: money, gold, silver, and trade goods. So what amount? The question now, if we go back to our original questions, what amount must you own in order to pay zakat on it? So who must pay zakat? Who must pay zakat? So I'll mention the Hanafi school, and there are some differences in other schools that we can allude to. So if you are a Muslim, if you are a free Muslim that is sane, so you have a mental capacity, which is a condition in the Hanafi school, it's not a condition in other schools. So if somebody is insane, their guardians can pay their zakah on their behalf. But if you're a Muslim and you're insane, you're sane, because some of us may go into temporary insanity because of a medication that we're given or because of anything that can happen. And we are adult, i.e. we have reached the age of puberty, and have money above the minimum threshold. We have money above the minimum threshold that is called nisab. Then zakah is obligatory. And zakah is an act of worship. Zakah is an act of devotion. So intention is required. If I give money without the intention of giving zakat, I cannot count it as zakat. Whenever I give money, I need to make sure that I have the intention. And if someone is giving money on my behalf, I need to make that intention, or they need to make the intention on my behalf. Otherwise, doesn't count as zakat. So what is nisab? I was told that there is some misunderstandings regarding nisab in some areas or by some Muslims. Nisab is very simple. Let's go over it. Nisab. We're not going to go over the nisab of livestock because they have their own nisab. For camels, you need to have at least 5 camels. And for sheep, you need to have at least 40 sheep. So we're not going to go over that. And same thing for crops. Crops, the nisab of crops is based on volume. You have 10 particular unit of wheat and barley, then you have to give zakat on those. We're not going to go over that. Let's restrict ourselves to money. So nisab, at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was one nisab, and the currency that was used in his time is something called dinar and dirham. Dinar was made out of gold, and dirham was made out of silver. At that time, the ratio between gold and silver was 1 to 10. i.e. each dinar equals 10 dirhams. So the nisab estimated in gold was 20 gold dinar. And in dirhams, it was 10 times that, 200 silver dirhams. Over time, this ratio between gold and silver changed. Nowadays, the ratio is over 10 times. But in the 15th, 16th century, actually, silver was more expensive than gold because silver became rare and was very hard to find. And then it became very abundant, and gold regained its popularity. So, what is 20 gram dinars? What is 20 gold dinars and 200 silver dirhams? So those are estimated by weight now. And it's around 84.5 grams to 87.48 grams. In the Hanafi schools, they use this estimate, 87 grams, 87.5 grams. And in silver, it was around 600 grams to 616 grams. And that's what the Hanafi school uses as an estimate. But it's around 600, and this one is around 85 grams. So if one owns any gold above 87 grams or any silver above 600 grams, then one must pay zakat. And this is the level of who must pay zakat. If we own over this amount in money, in gold, in silver, zakat is due. Right? Which should bring us to talk about a point regarding the level of poverty. The level of poverty. what is self-sufficiency and what is poverty. Okay, let me just finish this point and then we'll do the other. So level of poverty, according to the United Nations a few years ago, if you make less than $1 a day, up to $3 a day, depending on where you are, then you are poor. I.e., if you make less than $1,000 a year, you're considered to be poor. That's the level of poverty. The poverty level worldwide, on average. In Berkeley or in California here, $60,000 is the level of poverty. If you make less than that, you're poor. Can't survive. Okay, let's stop here for a few minutes and then we'll continue after. And if you have questions, inshallah, we'll continue with the workshop on zakat. We were discussing the principle of nisab. And nisab was given to us by the Prophet ﷺ, was implemented by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and the caliphs after them. And nisab was estimated to be around 87.48 grams of gold. Or around 616 grams of silver. Nowadays, the value of 87 grams is around $13,000, over $13,000 plus. And that of silver, as of last week, maybe around 10 times less. So this is nisab. If we have nisab, let's call this nisab. If you happen to have nisab, or you have to have wealth equal or above the nisab. What do we mean by wealth? We mean all zakatable assets. You do a summation of all your zakatable assets. Minus all liabilities. Minus a summation of all liabilities. All liabilities. I.e., if you have bills to pay, if you have loans, if you have all liabilities in that year or at that moment. If your zakatable assets minus your liabilities is over the nisab, your zakat year has begun. This is the beginning of zakat year. From now on, in the Hanafi school, it's very simple. We look at the beginning of the year and we look at the end of the year. The principle that the Hanafi school follows is the principle of snapshot. We take a snapshot in the beginning of the year. We take a snapshot at the end of the lunar year. So at the end of the lunar year, we take another snapshot. Let's say your money was over the nisab and it's fluctuated in the year because you're spending money, but by the end of the year, you are also above the nisab. Then you pay zakat on that money. So you take a snapshot at the end of the year. We take a snapshot in the beginning of the year. We determine whether our money is over the nisab. And by our money, we mean all money we have, whether in terms of cash or bank accounts anything in terms of gold, anything in terms of silver, anything in terms of merchandise, goods, trade stocks, anything that can be converted to money, and we subtract from this everything we have to pay, all our expenses. We subtract the loans we have in that year. I will talk about loans in more detail because the Hanafi school divide loans in three categories. There are 3 degrees of loan: a strong loan, a weak loan, and a medium kind loan. So we subtract liabilities, and if in the beginning of the year we're above the nisab, then it means now zakat is binding on us. So let's talk about this principle here. We have the principle of nisab, which is the threshold. If we are above this threshold, zakat is binding, zakat is obligatory. So we call this a cause. So what's the reason that zakat is obligatory? The reason zakat is obligatory because we are not recipient of zakat. We are classified as a giver, as a potential giver of zakat. Why? Because our wealth minus our liabilities are above a minimum threshold, the zakat threshold. We call this the cause, or in Arabic, this is the sabab. When zakah becomes obligatory on us, do we have to pay it right away? No. What we do, we allow this wealth to grow, and we give it 1 year. So this is in Arabic called hawl. If you follow the Hijri calendar, you don't have to worry about it. This is the hawl, i.e. the lunar calendar, the Hijri calendar. If you pay according to the solar calendar, hawl is 354 days and 8 hours and a few minutes. So if you pay on January 1st, then you have to pay maybe December 22nd. But if you pay 1st of Muharram or 10th of Muharram or 1st of Rabi'ul Awwal, then your year is easy. It's the following year, Rabi'ul Awwal. Very simple. So this hawl, we call it a condition. It's a shart. So if we have wealth above the nisab, zakat is obligatory on us. It's binding on us to pay zakat. It's in our zimma. Do we have to pay it right away? No. Provided we wait for it for 1 year. So on the condition that we wait on it for 1 year. And we also have another factor to consider, which is what we call mani', or anything that's an impediment, i.e. our liabilities. Is there a mani'? For example, any Muslim who's an adult Muslim, sane Muslim, is required to fast. But when one is sick, if one is sick, one is exempted from the obligation of fasting on that day, provided they do it later on as a makeup. So this being sick or experiencing menses or postnatal bleeding, this is a mani'. It prevents me from fulfilling the obligation at that time, and the Sharia gives me an exemption to delay it until I feel better. So in zakat, we worry about these 3 things. These 3 factors are important. We want to make sure that we are above the nisab. We want to make sure that we wait a hawl, i.e. we can wait 1 year before we pay it. Can we pay it before the 1 year? Yes, we can. because zakah is already binding on us. And that would be considered a prepayment. So zakat is due, say, on the 1st of Ramadan, and I pay it in Shaban. And liabilities is if I have bills to pay, say if I'm renting a house, I have to pay rent, I have to pay utilities, I have to pay, I have student loan that I'm paying. All these can be subtracted from. So if I have debt, if the debt is more than my, so if I have, say, $10,000, but I have a debt of $9,000, then actually my wealth is 1K. Is 1K above the nisab? Maybe, maybe not. So the debt may act as an impediment toward fulfilling the obligation of zakat, i.e., zakat is no longer obligatory on me. Now, the problem is, how do we determine this point, the beginning of the year? This is the beginning of the zakat year. This is the zakat fiscal year. And this point, which is the zakat anniversary, or the end of the year. As you see, it's not up to me to determine this point. I cannot decide on my own that my year begins on the 1st of Ramadan, or the 10th of Ramadan, or the 10th of Muharram, or the 10th of Safar. No. This date is very personal. It's like your wedding date. Doesn't change. In principle, if you're still above the nisab, if you maintain above the nisab. It's something that's unique to you, unique to each one of us, each and every one of us. So let's say for example, if my fiscal year, my zakat fiscal year begins on the 1st of Rabi'ul Awwal, then zakat is due on Rabi'ul Awwal of the following year, 12 months later. But I decide I want to pay it in Ramadan because there is barakah, there is. When I pay it in Ramadan, I'm doing a prepayment. I cannot decide on my own that my zakah begins in Ramadan and ends in Ramadan. Now, what happens if you don't know? When you first, because many of us don't remember when did we become wealthy. How do we know? Imagine we're children. We're like children. We're 10 years old, 9 years old. But our parents have been putting money away for our education fund. Now, as soon as I reach puberty and I become an adult, I have money in the bank that's above the nisab. Then the beginning of my fiscal year is the date I became an adult person. Maybe on the 21st of January 2012, for example. And that corresponds to, say, to a Hijri date. That determines when my fiscal year begins. So, assuming, let's say, we begin on, you want to pick a date? Pick a date. May 20th. May 20th. And for simplicity, let's say we're following the solar year. So the anniversary would be May 20th. I look at the nisab. I have this amount of money. So the nisab, say, is 13K for simplicity. I have 20K. I'm 12 years old, I have 20K. And then over 1 year, my 20K may go below the nisab and then may go above the nisab again. In the Hanafi school, we don't care about whether it goes below the nisab or doesn't within the year. What do they care about? We care about, we take a snapshot. Snapshot on May 20th. Is your wealth minus your liabilities over the nisab? Then zakah is binding on you. 1 year later, if you're still above the nisab, then you have to pay a particular amount, 2.5%. Now, at the end of the year, I'm still above the nisab. Now I pay 2.5% on this amount, assuming that I paid all my liabilities. I paid my debt, my rent, my utilities, everything. I'm paying, say, I don't know, I'm paying, I'm buying a car in installment. I paid the installment for that year. Then, if I'm still above the nisab, then now I have to pay zakat, not on my income. Maybe I made $500,000, but at the end of the year, I only have $10,000. I only pay on what I have at the end of that year. So it's not an income tax. However, let's assume that I started with 20K, but for whatever reason, at the end of the year, I'm below the nisab. My wealth minus liabilities are below the nisab. What do? I take a snapshot on May 20th. I am below the nisab. No zakat is due on me. No zakat is due on me. Now, let's assume I paid earlier in Ramadan a prepayment toward May 20th. But when May 20th came, zakat was not due on me. So whatever I paid in Ramadan is actually charity, is not zakat. Because there is no zakat due on me. نعم تفضل.
So suppose I take the snapshot at the beginning of the year and my wealth was like $100. At the end of the year, it turned into. Thank you. So suppose I take a snapshot at the beginning of the year, it's $100 my wealth, and it's above the nisab.
Above or below?
Above the nisab.
Let's say above, okay.
And at the end of the year, it turned into $200. It's still above the nisab.
Above the nisab.
On what amount do I pay the
200?
200.
On 200.
But like earlier when
it's
you
not
mentioned,
on the delta. Huh? It's not on the delta.
Right. But what I was saying, like, is it? I have to have that wealth for 1 year, because maybe I'm adding wealth at the end of the year. Now it's 200. So this $100 extra, right? That's I add at end of the year. I didn't have it for whole 1 year. So
right. No, the growth within 1 year is part of that year.
That part of it, okay.
Part of that year.
Okay. So another question on the gold price, right? Like
now, in some other schools, because here it's very simple. Huh? You don't need spreadsheet. You don't need to be an expert in Excel or in anything. You take a snapshot in the beginning. You take a snapshot at the end. You compute your wealth minus your liabilities. You're above the nisab. Now you start monitoring, but you don't have to monitor it throughout the year. You only have to monitor it at the end of the year. Whatever growth you accumulate during the year, you look at your wealth at the end of the year, and that growth is part of that year. That's what we're allowing it to grow. We're allowing it to grow.
Okay, gotcha.
And now, in some other schools, if you have a major amount of money coming, say 6 months later, you can start a new fiscal year for that particular amount only. Okay. But then, if you work in a company and you get your salary is $20,000 a month, you need to have you're going to have 12 fiscal years.
Okay, gotcha. Right? So another question on the
but
gold price.
We're limiting ourselves to the Hanafi school. You take a snapshot in the beginning, snapshot at the end. We only worry about, are we above the nisab in the beginning? Are we above the nisab at the end? Bang, you pay.
Okay, right? Okay, so that's for that. So another question on the gold price.
Huh?
Gold price, because it increases so much, right? About the last 1 year. So
it increases so much, right?
Yeah. So we still consider the end of the year, whatever the price is, right? For the gold price.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, depending what kind of gold you have, right? Do you have pure gold or do you have jewelry?
I build jewelry.
Okay, so if you have pure gold, then you compute the price of gold at the end of the year as indicated. But if you have jewelry, this is called like a scrap gold. It's not like pure gold. It's not a new gold. It's old gold. So when you go to sell it, they have to do some operation to extract the gold from the jewelry, because your jewelry may not be 24 karat, could be 18 or 14.
Right.
If you were to sell it, the value of gold is not the value of gold you see for the new gold. It's lower. So when you pay zakat on jewelry, you have to compute the value of jewelry according to the idea that this jewelry is not a new gold, but it's a gold that has been transformed into an item, and for them to extract the gold back, it's going to take some effort and some cost.
Okay. Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
تفضل.
Jazakallah khairan.
Yes.
I have two quick questions.
All right.
One is like I was told that if I use the jewelry on a daily basis, like my bangles or something, that is exempt
Okay.
from. I want to understand
Is
that.
that the question?
That's the one
All right.
question.
In the Hanafi school, you pay zakat on jewelry, right? In other schools, like the Shafi'i, Malikis, and Hanbalis, there is no zakat on jewelry that is used in a permissible way. What does it mean to be used in a permissible way? It means to be used inside the house in front of immediate family, like your husband or your family. But if you wear your jewelry outside, this is jewelry used in a haram way, according to the other schools. And as such, you have to pay zakat on it. There is no zakat on jewelry used in a permissible way. So if you wear jewelry in order to show off in front of your friends, look at me, I have more jewelry than you. Because women, they always, they're jealous of each other. So they want to show off. That's not a permissible use. That's an impermissible use. If you use jewelry to go into a party, that's not an impermissible use. If you use the jewelry in the other schools in a permissible way, meaning a woman of your caliber, in your environment, in your social status, have this amount of jewelry. But let's say the women they have normal amount of jewelry, but you, on the other hand, you have 40 kilograms of jewelry. That's way too much than an average person in your community. Then this will be looked at as money, not jewelry anymore, because it's like you're trying to save money under the pretext of jewelry. So if you want to follow the other schools, you have to know exactly their constraints. Otherwise, you may not. In principle, I think in the 21st century, the requirement, the conditions they put, like the Shafi'is and Malikis and Hanbalis, will amount to the same thing as the Hanafis. You have to pay zakah on jewelry for most women. And then case by case, they can be exempted in the other school. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you. So the other question is, if I put money on an asset, but that asset is not giving me any revenue or anything, it's just sitting. So will
Kind of asset, you mean you're buying stocks?
in a real estate, for example, in a real estate, for
Real
example.
estate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do I have to consider that amount that I put in that asset towards calculating the nisab, or because
Excellent question. Let's wait a little bit because the real estate will come later. Will come in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Yes.
Sorry, I also have two questions. One related to jewelry. Are we literally speaking of gold and silver, or does diamond and platinum
No,
count?
there are no zakat on rocks.
Okay.
Any rocks other than gold and silver, there are no big. Gold and silver were created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the basis for currency. There's an objective, they constitute an objective measure of money. And most countries used to have used to have like reserve in gold or reserve in silver until the US dollar was separated from gold in the 20th century, right? So gold and silver, it's an objective measure, right? Because every currency now can be measured against gold and silver. Now, other rocks like diamonds, like whatever, pearl, like yakut, like all those things, there is no jewelry, there is no zakat on them. There is zakat on them when you trade them.
Okay.
If you use them as trade goods, like you're buying and selling, then they become merchandise. Same thing with gold. If you use gold to trade like jewelry, to buy and sell because you have a jewelry store, then they're no longer jewelry, they're trade items. And there is zakah on them as a business owner, as a business, which we will cover, inshallah, a little later, if there is time.
Jazakallah khair. And one last question for now. You mentioned if you invest for children and when they hit puberty, they have to pay potentially zakat. What if you're investing in a 529 plan where the funds are restricted? So it would mean
What if you're investing what for children?
A 529 plan. It's college education.
Yes,
it's
like
restricted.
an education fund, yeah.
So its uses are restricted. So if you have to pay zakat, you would have to pay, out of your pocket because you can't use those funds towards
You can't
zakat specifically.
You can't take it back, right? They penalize you.
You cannot take.
You can only take it back.
It's only
18 years later.
transferable. It's only transferable, but you cannot take it back.
Right. Then that has a special consideration. So I'll mention some of those, inshallah, later on as well.
Jazakallah khair.
Inshallah. Any question? Does this answer your question for now? Yeah. Fadal Sayyid. No.
Can you clarify when you say you minus liability, is it liability that is almost immediate to the...
Yeah. It's not like an anticipated liability. Oh, 6 months from now, I'm going to have a car accident, so therefore I need to pay this person $200 or $200,000. So I'm going to subtract it from my money now. Not anticipated liabilities or anticipated bills. Let's say you're expecting a bill 3 months from now. 3 months from the end of the year, from May 20th. No, the bills that you incurred during the year. So these are the liabilities within the year. So if you have a mortgage, for example, they may penalize you if you pay early. So you have a certain installment that you have to pay within this year. So in the Hanafi school, that's what you consider.
But
what are my liabilities within my zakat fiscal year? And my zakat fiscal year is unique to me. You may have a different zakat fiscal year. No.
I see. I guess my confusion is the where the chart ends, like that represents the wealth, has the liabilities already embedded in it. It's already like...
Yeah, because you have money. Let's say you work or you have a business and you're getting revenues, but you're also spending.
Yeah.
You're paying bills. So we're monitoring basically your wealth minus liabilities at each point.
Correct. Okay.
During the year. And by the end of the year, if your money minus liabilities is still above the nisab, then you pay zakat.
Okay.
If you're below the nisab, you don't pay zakat. But then when you don't pay zakat, what happens? So let's say in July 15th, or July 4th, let's say July 4th. On July 4th, you were below the nisab and then your money started increasing. And on July 4th, you are now above the nisab. This is your new beginning of a new fiscal year. So now you have a date unique to you. It's like your birthday. This is a new birthday for your fiscal year. And now you have to wait for another year, to July 4th, the following year, and you take a snapshot at that time. And if you're above the nisab, you pay. If you're below the nisab, you don't. Does that make sense? No, there was a question.
Yeah, I have one more question, follow up on what the other brother asked. So basically, if I have a mortgage for the 30 years, I can only subtract the liability during the Zakat fiscal year for that mortgage, not the pending years, right? That's my understanding.
Not the pending.
Not the pending years, right?
Yeah, because your mortgage could be $1 million,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I have one.
You have a debt of $1 million, but
Yeah.
you're living, mashallah, a very nice life. You have car, you have house, you have wife, you have children. You go fishing on the weekend. I don't know, right? So, and then you say, okay, well, I have $1 million mortgage, therefore my liabilities is $1 million, therefore I don't need to pay zakat. Doesn't work like this.
And another.
What's your liability in this year?
And another question I had is, what's the rationale of using gold versus silver to decide the nisab?
The rationale? You mean today or?
Yeah, today.
Today. Well, you can use either one. If you have gold only, you have to use gold. If you have silver only, you have to use silver. But let's say you have money. You don't have gold, you don't have silver. Then you can choose between gold and silver. The scholars suggest that you use whatever is better for the poor. Whatever is better for the poor is silver, right? Because the nisab of silver is like $500, $600, while the nisab, or maybe $1,300, whatever the number is, while the nisab for gold is $13,000. Right? For most people who work in companies, they're going to be, whether it's gold or silver, they don't care. But for those who are struggling, it may matter. In the Hanafi school, you're either a giver of zakat or a recipient of zakat. In other schools, you can give zakat and you can also receive zakat. You give zakat from one angle, but you can receive zakat from a different angle. And there is a misunderstanding that, it became part of our psyche that we think only poor people can take zakat. That's not true. That's not true. The way zakat works, you'll be surprised how it works. Like, why is it the second pillar, one of the pillars of Islam? Because I give 2.5% to someone who is needy, and I remind him day and night, like, look, I paid your bills. No, there is, inshallah, but this is not for this session, I think, for the community. Maybe we can do that for leaders of the community, like what's the philosophy behind it, how many layers of society it can touch. So when they distribute zakah, they're aware of this, and they're distributing in light of this knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's not only touches layer of society, it also touches industries. So the industry of travel, the industry of tourism, the industry of giving loans, the industry of investment, the industry of unemployment. Zakat in the past, like if somebody needed investment, they get investment from zakat funds. So the Department of Zakat, let's say you're a farmer, you're poor, but you have the know-how. But you need an ox just to plow the farm. The Department of Zakat will pay you that ox. Will give you that ox. You're a carpenter or a cabinet maker, and you're an expert, a master, but you don't have enough tools. The Department of Zakat will buy tools for you and give it to you. And there's a transfer of ownership, so you own it. You own this. Let's say you are a businessman and you are in need of investment, and if it's examined by the Department of Zakat, they may give you investment from Zakat. So the impact of Zakat throughout history was way greater than what we think about today. So, like, if you look at how Zakat is looked at in the Hanafi school and how Zakat is looked at in the Shafi'i school, and you put them together, you have a wonderful system. Because the Hanafi school, what they try to do, they work bottom up, and the Shafi'i schools work top down. So what is the basic assumption? The basic, the estimate today that worldwide Zakat amounts to anywhere between $500 billion to $1 trillion yearly. Do you know how many problems you can solve with $1 trillion in the Muslim community? That's worldwide. In California, I made a rough calculation, and the amount of zakat that can be collected from Muslims in California, even though the number is not too high, number of Muslims, is quite amazing. Like it's very high.
And I heard in another talk that, like in Hanfi school, there are 3 categories. Like one is the payer of zakat, one is the receiver of zakat, and there is a middle category in which you are neither a payer or nor a recipient of the zakat.
Yeah, you could be. Yeah. Okay. You could, but in principle, you're either a giver or a receiver. In principle.
I have one question.
Fadda Sayyid.
So, with the assumption of the snapshot thing, right? If in this last year I have never had that option, like let's say I paid my zakat in last Ramadan, can I proceed going forward? Consider that as my eligibility.
Yeah. I mean, in that case, if we don't know when our zakat begin, let's not worry about it now. Let's worry about the present. Try to estimate that date to the best of your ability. Maybe it's the first time you started working.
Right.
Then you can say, okay, I started working in 1992, blah blah blah, on this month, and that's my first salary, my first time salary, right? So you can maybe work back from there. But if you're now considering a particular date as the beginning of your fiscal year, so let's worry about the present. Let's make sure that we are paying our zakat currently, and then we work backward. We try to estimate when did our fiscal year began.
In that regard, say the like for
Every time you pay it, say in Ramadan, it can be either the actual date or prepayment toward the actual date that you had in mind.
beginning.
Right?
So just like namaz, like when if we have missed the fard, we have a qada of fard, and in case if I have missed out the zakat at the beginning, I probably be very continuous from the time when it started. But before my start point, if I have missed it, is there a ruling there?
Of course, yeah. So this is a very good question. Does zakat expire? Is there an expiry date? So what if I miss zakat? I have to pay zakat on the day of Eid. So what's the idea behind zakat? The idea behind zakat is after 1 year, as soon as 1 year expires, the money I have, part of that money is no longer mine. It's in my pocket, but it's not mine. It belongs to somebody else. It's their rights in my pocket.
Okay.
If I lose it, I still have to pay it. If I lose all my money, I still have to pay it if it is an act of negligence on my behalf. Like I delayed it without regard for them. But we have a problem nowadays that most people who are wealthy, they don't know who is in need, because we don't know our communities very well, and they're looking for one of the 8 categories to pay. At least in the Hanafi school, one of the 8 categories. And sometimes also those who are in need, they hesitate before they tell others that we are in need, and they don't know who to come to. That's why the community or the mosque here is going to play a crucial role, because here the mosque is playing a double role. So the first question is, I am a giver of zakah. Is the mosque my representative, acting on my behalf? Then the mosque is a wakil, my wakil. But then the recipient of zakah comes to the mosque. Is the mosque acting on their behalf, i.e. they are also their representative? So then the mosque would become a representative for the recipient as well as the representative for the giver. Now, how do you navigate that? That's a separate discussion now with the with the leaders of communities.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I think we have one more. Yeah, right.
It's 9 o'clock now. We didn't finish. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a question about paying zakat. So when you're paying it, do you have to pay? Is it okay to pay to an institution? For example, can you pay to a school as a charity school, or do you have to give it in the hand of a person who's needy?
Okay. So that's what we mentioned in the beginning. Zakat implies a transfer of ownership. There is a transfer of ownership, i.e., a transfer of ownership from. You cannot pay zakat, say, to a madrasa or a hospital. No, it needs to be given to a person, and then that person does with it whatever they want. They want to give it to the hospital, they want to give it to the school, they want to give it to the institution, it's up to them. But there has to be a transfer of ownership. That's the basis of zakat. Transfer of ownership. So you cannot say, I'm going to build a bridge. I'm going to build a bridge between this side and that side of a river and consider that as zakat. It doesn't work like this. Secondly, in zakat, when you pay zakat, you should not benefit from it. If I build a bridge and I walk on it, I'm benefiting from it. So if I give money to a person, I don't expect any gift back. And if he gives me a gift back, I do not benefit from my zakat. Zakat is when it comes to the money of others and financial responsibilities, the jurists are very strict. We don't want to make them unhappy. Yeah, does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So I heard that if you have family members or relatives who are zakat eligible, so you have to give the zakat to them first before you give it to the other people. Is it correct?
So this is a good question. When we give zakat to relatives, assuming those relatives are not relatives that we have to spend on. I cannot give zakat, say, to my father or my grandfathers or my children or my wife, because I'm responsible to take care of them anyway. But if I give zakat, say, to a relative, I need to make sure that they are recipient of zakat. I cannot assume that they are recipient of zakat. I need to know that they are eligible for zakat. And we have 8 categories. Not all of them are eligible today. Some categories we don't have them anymore, like slaves, for example, we don't have them. Or al-amiluna alayha, the zakat agents and workers, we don't have that. Or other categories. But if we give zakat to anyone, we need to make sure that they qualify to receive zakat. How do we know that? We need to understand what does al-fiqh. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها, etc., etc., etc. We need to make sure that those who are we consider as recipient of zakat are really eligible for zakat. And we, inshallah, if there's time, we'll go over it. Let me just finish a few points so that we can wrap it up. But I'm willing to stay until midnight if you want. And I'm okay. Okay. So we have. All right. Now we said in the Hanafi school, the year is not interrupted. So if we dip below the nisab, we do not interrupt the year and begin a new year. We take a snapshot in the beginning of the year. We take a snapshot at the end of the year. In some cases, the year may get interrupted. But that's an extreme case. If our money, for example, goes below zero, if we're completely bankrupt, then we may need to start a new year from when we reach nisab again. And then our year gets interrupted. But that's an extreme case. Let's not worry about it now. So what we need to worry about Snapshot in the beginning, money, cash, bank account, gold, silver, trade goods, if we're trading in goods, stocks, if we're trading in stocks, whatever can be converted to money, provided they meet the condition or the fine print, minus liabilities. Are we above the nisab? The year begins. At the end of the year, are we still above the nisab? Then we pay zakat. All right. Yes. The beginning of the year determines when I begin counting.
But I'm calculating the zakat with the basis of what I have at the end.
All right. Let's go over it again. All right. How do you know the end of the year?
We calculate whatever we have.
So how do we determine the end of the year? The end of what? Which year? So that year must have a beginning. To know the end, we need to know the beginning, right? Because each year is different. Like your year is different than mine. My year is different than his. And I cannot on my own decide, this is the end of the year. This is the time I'm going to pay zakat. Like Sharia-wise, that's not up to me. Sharia-wise, I need to know when did I have money above the nisab, and that marks the beginning of the year. It's like my birthday. This is now the birthday of the fiscal year. And that's unique to you, that's unique to him, that's unique to me. I cannot decide on the birthday of the fiscal year on my own, arbitrarily. It's determined by the Sharia, do we have money above the nisab or not? I can pay any time of the year, it's a prepayment before the end of the year. So how do I know that's the end of the year? Because I know the beginning of the year. How did I know the beginning of the year? Because I'm monitoring my bank account, and all of a sudden my bank account, I'm 12 years old, 13 years old, it's over the nisab. My father told me it's over the nisab. Okay, now it's my year has begun. I wait another year and I take a snapshot. I'm still above the nisab, then I pay zakat. Yeah, does that make sense? All right. So when do you pay zakat? We said zakat is only due once in a lunar year. So this is to enable growth and facilitate calculation. Right? And the lunar year is about, as we all know, about 11 days shorter than the solar year. So it's around 354 days and 8 hours plus. Right? When to pay zakat? It's 1 year after my money exceeded the nisab, minus the liability. Right? And zakat is only due once in a lunar year. However, if I have, like, say, I know I'm making, mashallah, a lot of money, I'm making $10 million a year, for example. And I know I have expenses, I'm living a luxury lifestyle, and then at the end of the year I have to pay, say, $30,000 in zakat. But I find it hard to pay it in one shot. It weighs on me. What I can do, I can pay it monthly. I can pay something, like Imam Ghazali says, encourages people to pay zakat in Muharram, or in special days, like in auspicious days, Ramadan, Muharram, like those days, those kind of. So I can pay $30,000. I can pay $10,000 monthly, 3 months ahead of the end of the year. It makes it easier on my bank account or on my conscience. Some people find it hard to pay a big, amount of money in one shot. But zakat is due only once a lunar year. So if we do not know our date, our birthday of the zakat year, we guesstimate. We try to estimate. Now, if you cannot guesstimate, just pick a date arbitrarily and start paying. Worry about the present. And then start working, try to backdate. So the idea that we have to pay, because, those who are in need, there are people in need every day of the year. And if all of us pay zakat only in Ramadan, what about, all the other months when people are in need? We need to cover their needs. Huh? So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom, He made sure that each of us has their own, a different beginning of the year than other people. So does zakat time out? The question that was asked. Is there an expiry date on zakat? No. It is a right that is due, i.e. it's not our money anymore. It's in our pocket, it's not our money. And it's a right of others on us. So I'm not doing them a favor by giving them zakat. They're doing me a favor. I'm the first beneficiary of zakat because it's purifying my wealth and it's allowing it to grow in a blessed way. And at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in a world where we are in need of each other. Put us in a world where people are sick. Put us in a world where children are suffering. Put us in a world where there are good and evil happening everywhere. And He's telling us, let me see how you navigate this world. Let me see how you work. These are the rules of the games. And these are the guidelines of Sharia. And let me see how you do your job as a Muslim. Right? Let me finish and then we can. Right. So now the question is, let me try to finish this quickly and allow for questions. So is zakat on all wealth? No, it's only on wealth that can grow. So how do we know now what's our zakat calculation? How do we calculate? We calculate, it's a very simple formula, we talked about it a lot. So basically what we do, one, we calculate what we have. If I have livestock, I calculate what I have. If I have crops, I calculate what I have. If I have money, gold, silver, trades, I calculate what I have. So I do a summation. I do a summation of all the value of all my zakatable assets. And then I subtract all the liabilities, what I owe, what we owe. So calculate the value of all deductible debts and or liabilities. So basically debts / liabilities. And this will give me basically net zakatable assets. So this is, now we can determine our net zakatable assets. And if this is above the nisab, my year has begun. And at the end of the year, if my net zakatable assets are above the nisab, then zakat is due. Does this make sense? This is a very simple formula. Anybody can make their own formula and come up with a first order approximation of the amount I need to pay at this point. Then I consult, I prepare everything, I go to my local imam, and I'm ready. I don't have to start from scratch. He asks me a question that I don't know an answer to. I'm ready. Within 10, 20 minutes, he said, oh, you forgot this, what about this, what about this? I'm done. All right. So now how do I add all my money? How do I add what we have? So all the money assets in one's ownership. So if I have cash, plus if I have like gold ingots, plus silver. So zakat is due on all currencies that we have. Let's say I went to Europe and I exchanged some dollars for some euros and I brought like 200, 300 euros. I add euros as well. Something like this. I add euros. I have pounds, I add pounds. I add all the money that I have. Any money that I spent before the beginning of the year, any money I spent during the year, I don't add it. Because I'm looking now at the beginning of the year, I take a snapshot, I add all the money. So I don't add any anticipated expenses, right? Now, what we owe, the money we owe, maybe this is, it includes loans, loans advanced with the, okay. Let me just, before we go here and talk about debts, I can add here also, I can add loans that is owed to me. So let's say I gave CD $500, and he said I'll pay you next month. So this is not a loan that I'm not expecting to get back. This is my money, but it's not in my pocket now, it's in his pocket. Right? So I can add that. This is my money at this point. 401k, yes, that's a good question. Now, how do we calculate the 401k? There are many ways. One of the ways is that you estimate the 401k at that particular point, and estimate, like, if you were to withdraw it today, how much would they keep and how much it's yours? Then you can add that amount. There are also other formulas. For the 401k, I'd like to, I'll try to prepare one slide for 401k and send it to you. So then send it to Sidi Munir, and then Munir will share it with everyone. Yeah. Whatever of the 401k, whether it's or the IRA or the 453 or those things. And let's say I have, I'm a business owner, I have, I sent merchandise to some people, and there's accounts payable and accounts receivable, and I'm expecting receivable from the sale of commercial goods.
Will you be adding properties as well here? Real estate?
Real estate. Okay, let's talk about real estate before we continue.
When we have to add.
Let's say you buy a house. You buy a house. If you buy a house to live in it, there is no zakat on that. If you buy a house to rent it, there is no zakat on the house. There is zakat on the income from renting, the rental income. If you have a land, there is no zakat on land. If you buy a land to rent it, there is zakat on the income from rent. Right? If you buy a house, you're real estate developers, or you deal with houses. That's your business. You buy a house, maybe the house is not good, you refurbish it, you flip it, and then you sell it. Then this is like merchandise goods. You're a businessman dealing with houses. Instead of selling iPhones, you're selling houses. Then you have to estimate the value of trade goods. But if you buy a house, or two houses, or five houses, for use, for personal use, without the intention to resell it, it's not business. When is it considered a business? You need to have the intention that I'm acquiring this house because I want to sell it. You start a business, say, with 10 shirts. Your wife gave you 10 shirts. Then you say, oh my God, I can start a business online. And I start selling those shirts. So now I'm engaged in business. After 1 year, I have to estimate the value of the shirts, of the socks, of the belts, whatever I'm selling. If I'm selling oils, the value. If I'm selling perfume, the value. These are trade goods become. If I'm selling cars, I may have 5 cars in my house, but for use. There is no zakat on the fixed assets. I may have a business and I have offices, I have desks, I have computers, I have trucks that move merchandise back and forth, I have warehouses. There is no zakat on those things. But let's say I'm a baker and I buy wheat, flour, and I buy sugar, and I buy baking powder, and I make cakes. Now these are my merchandise, this is my goods. At the end of the year, I have to, at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, I have to estimate the value of these goods. How much did I buy them for, and how much are they worth today? Does that make sense? So for houses, there is no zakat on houses if you, unless they're intended, you acquire them to resell them. You may buy a house for rental, to rent it out to students who are near university, near the college. And then 5 years later, it's too much headache. You say, I'm going to sell it. There's no zakat on it. There's zakat on the money that you acquire from selling the house. Because your intention was not to sell the house, or not to deal in houses. Or maybe your intention is to sell the house, and then after looking at it, you say, oh my God, I like this house, I want to live in it. Then it's no longer business assets. It's no longer trade goods. Now it becomes a personal use, for personal use. There is no zakat on it now. Same thing with livestock. If you have camels that you use to transport materials, or to ride on, it's like your car, there is no zakat on it. But if you have camels that that are not used for personal use, they're not used for transportation, and they have babies and they're growing, there is zakat on them. So if it's fixed asset, if it's for personal use, if it's not for trade goods, there is no zakat on it. But if it is for business, i.e., it has the potential to grow. You may buy it for X amount of dollars and sell it for twice that amount. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes.
One more question on the stocks, Saidi.
Stocks.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you're buying stock, if you're trading in stocks, some people trade in stocks. They buy stocks and then sell them. Buy stocks and sell. They work from 9 to 5, like they're day traders, they call them, or that's their. It's like their hobby, but it's not just a hobby. It's more than a hobby. Every week they're buying and selling. Every month they're buying and selling. This is like trade goods. The stocks become like trade goods. But if I buy stocks for long term, okay, I bought stock, I'll look at it maybe 10 years later. That's a different story. It's not trade goods. And now how do you deal with that? I'll try to put it also in a chart instead of talking about it now. It will take time. But that's the principle, right? Is am I dealing with this every day, trade goods, or am I not? And what makes a person a businessman? The intention is important. Did I acquire this item to resell it or not? To resell it for a profit or not? That's the business. Sometimes I become a businessman, but not by my own will. For example, let's say I belong to a family and my father passes away, and he owns a business. I inherited the business. I don't want to be a businessman. I want to be a teacher, right? So now I have a business, but it's not my intention to engage in business or to resell the items, right? I'm not a businessman yet. So these are not trade goods anymore. If I change my intention, like a month later, I said, no, I want to keep the legacy of my family alive. I'm going to continue this business until I die. I'll pass it away to my children later on. Then now I'm again a businessman. And then I deal, every item in the business becomes like a trade goods. But if I don't make that decision, if I don't make that intention, I can sell the business as just I'm selling a house, I'm selling an iPhone, I'm selling a laptop. And now I'm going to pay zakat on the income or on the revenue from selling. Right? Was there a question? No.
So going back to my initial question that I asked you about real estate, that if I put money on an asset where I'm not generating any money, so the money I put it on the asset, will that
What do you mean you put money on the asset? You invested in it?
I invested in it.
You invested in what?
Money on a real estate.
Real estate.
Purchase, but I'm not bringing any money.
So was it like, did somebody approach you? They were looking for investors, and you invested in that?
Yeah. So, but I'm not bringing any money home. So the money I invested in that, do I have to count that money towards my calculation, or because I'm not bringing any money
Okay.
home?
We'll answer this question and then we'll stop, I think. But let me see if I need anything. What about investments, crypto, investments for children? What about my investments? Okay, so let's say you invested in a company, right? Because at the end you're investing in that company or in that project? On that project, right? So if you invested in that project, let's take two scenarios. You invest in a company, invest in Apple, you invest in this company or whatever. So when you invest in a company, you buy shares in that company. They give you shares? What do they give you? Shares. Right. So if they give you shares, then you become, there is a pool of shares, and the 100% of shares, like a pie, and the totality of investors or shareholders, they own the company. I.e., they own the buildings, they own the laptops, they own the desk, the desk, they own the labs, they own the equipment, they own everything. They own everything, right? And maybe the company also has gold and silver, so they own that gold and silver. Maybe the company has money, cash, they own cash, right? So if you say invest in a company, then you have to estimate what part of that company is fixed assets.
If the company is going on loss. If the company going on loss.
On loss?
Yeah.
But let's talk in principle. Let's say you invest in Apple. So what portion of Apple is fixed assets, i.e. laptops and computers and labs and all those things, or like trucks and everything? What parts of Apple is money, like liquid money or gold and silver? And then you basically you own a portion of that, and you're going to pay zakat on the amount that is money, gold and silver and money, not on the fixed assets of that company. If you invest in a real estate company, it's the same thing. But if you invest in a project, I need to know a little bit more details. I think if you have more details, send them to me and I'll look at them. And so try to like be precise when you come up with a question. And then if it's clear, I'll answer it right away. Otherwise, we'll have a discussion if you want. Yeah, sure. تفضلي. نعم.
Regarding the skin, like someone asked,
Regarding what?
if we can donate the institution like Zaytuna College, they have we go for donation, they have a option zakat fund. So in Zaytuna, if I donate for zakat fund, other institution have the same thing. They have a option for zakat fund. Is that okay? We can do that.
Yeah, because you can give zakat, say, to students who are learning and are expected to excel and become muftis and become khatibs and serve the community, right? So, for example, somebody who's a carpenter or a wood maker need tools. Students also need books. They need tuition fees. They need lodging. They need all of this is zakatable. All of that is so. Zaytuna or others, they have their own formula of what is zakatable. So when they receive your zakat, they know how to distribute it within the school that they're following, right?
And then like Zakat America or the Islamic relief.
See, in principle, any organization that you give money to, you need to do your homework.
You need to do?
You need to do your homework. You need to come to a point where you're comfortable giving money to. You may need to ask questions. You may need to do some due diligence, because nowadays, online you can register a non-profit organization overnight, and you're one or two people and become a non-profit organization and you start collecting zakat. Now, other organizations, they're becoming mature, they're becoming well known, but at the same time, I'd like to know how they distribute zakat. I'd like to know who they consider to be eligible for zakat. Just a simple question, like how do you do they take salary from zakat? I'd like to know that. So that may or may not work.
So there are like recognized organizations like CARE, like Islamic Relief, Zakat America. We can see in the online that they are very transparent. They are saying that 10% they give to the for the organization, and then 90% goes for the zakat. In that situation, can we give the zakat to those organizations?
I don't know the inside of those organizations, but if they're respected and you feel comfortable, it's up to you.
So if they use like 10%, 8% for their administrative cost, is that okay?
Well, many of them also, they receive sadaqah, they receive donation, they don't just receive zakat, right? But they also, many of them have a financial report, end of year financial report, where they outline how the money they collected was spent. So take a moment and look at that, and because there is a transparency, many of them will pass.
Yeah,
if you're not comfortable, then you can stop.
Yeah, I asked them directly, like,
Okay.
Do you use this for the organization cost? They said we use like 7%, 8%, 10% for whoever is distributing the zakat. They are very transparent. So now my question is, can I give them zakat?
I don't know. Because I don't know how they operate. So I cannot I cannot answer that question.
Most of our zakat money is here in America. We can give it to the masjid, or we can give to this organization. Others we send to back home.
Right.
So that's all our choice.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Yeah, when if you want, when you give your zakat, put conditions. Put conditions.
Like?
So I like my zakat to be given to those recipients. You can specify the recipients. Faqir, miskeen, whatever recipients in the Quran that are mentioned. Gharimin, those are in debt. Or Ibn Sabil, those travelers who, for whatever reason, their wallet was stolen and they don't have money anymore, they need to go back to their country. So those are like legitimate recipients.
Right now, like Made Global, Islamic Relief, we write down that it is for Sudan or for Gaza. Is that okay?
I mean, on the surface, in principle, it seems okay, but I don't know the details, so I cannot give you like a definite answer. I mean, I know Islamic Relief, I know some of these organizations, but I don't know the inside out of their operations. So,
We have few online questions. If you want, I can just read for you.
what's the question?
There are 7 questions. I'll just
7 questions. Let's go over them, and
yeah.
if they're easy to answer, we'll answer them right away. Otherwise, we'll provide the answer online. Sure.
Yeah, they don't want to miss the questions because people are watching it. The first question: how about the tax credit we get with charity?
Tax what?
Tax credits. That's the first question. The second one: do you pay zakat on the amount that exceeds the 87 grams or the total amount of gold you have?
On the amount that exceeds
87 grams or the total amount of gold you have.
the total.
The total. Okay. My question is, I am stay-home mom. I have gold jewelry which was gifted by family and husband. How can I pay zakat if I don't have any income? So she got the jewelry from the family
Oh.
as a
Well,
gift, and she doesn't have an income, or so how
Yeah.
can?
If she has gold over 87 grams, because many families they have this tradition where the grandmother and
Right.
they pass on jewelries to the grandchildren, and it's a tradition in the family, and maybe the person doesn't have an income, then still the jurist will say that you have to sell part of the jewelry.
Yeah,
You have to sell
part of the
it.
jewelry. Yeah.
Or like if the jewelry is, I don't know, say 500 grams, you need to give 12.5 grams from that jewelry.
To get the zakat amount.
Yeah, zakat on it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I learned. Like,
Yeah.
if there is no income, you sell your jewelry
Yeah,
to
you
get
still
the
need
part
to
of
sell
it.
it, yeah.
Okay. The other question: do we have to pay zakat on the amount gold was purchased for years ago, or the current gold price?
You estimate the current gold price.
Okay.
Whether if it's a new gold, yes, you get the new gold estimate,
Oh,
and if it's what they call scrap gold or old gold, then you value what you have with a person who knows how to value jewelry.
okay. Is zakat
Now,
due on?
let me just mention one thing. In the Hanafi school and also most schools, you need to have at least 50% of gold in the jewelry. So
50%
needs
of
to be
gold?
50% of gold or more to be zakatable. If it is less than 50%, it's not zakatable. So if you have a 12 carat, 14 carat, 18 carat, 24 carat, these are all zakatable. But if you have 10 carat, it's not zakatable.
Okay, got it. Is zakat due on personal residence? No.
Personal what?
Residence.
No. If residence for personal use, there is no zakat on it.
Okay. And this is the last question. What if someone money takes loan from me? Someone money takes loan from me. Who will pay zakah, loaner or borrower? I think you should be. If someone
If
owes,
someone takes loan from you,
From me.
so you give him, he gives him money, right?
yeah, I give some money to someone.
Right.
So who
So now this
should I be
person-
paying the zakat, or the person who took the loan paying the zakat?
No, the person who took the loan is in debt.
Is that yes?
That's a liability for him.
Okay.
So in the Hanafi school, it's debt, right? But for you, if that person is going to give you back your money, then you have money. But if that person is known not to pay, their debts, then you can write it off. So, but if you expect the money to come back, then it's part of your wealth.
It's part of my wealth, and then
Yeah.
okay. I think those are
It's the same thing like for money you put in the bank. It's like you loan the bank that money. That's what you're doing, right? But you can carry it anytime you want. You can go and withdraw the money. So that's your wealth. That's considered your
And
wealth.
say one other question: if I'm paying, if I'm giving money to someone as a loan, and I'm not expecting that until 2 years,
Until
let's
2
say,
years.
So what about this year? Which should I consider that amount which gone to the X person in my wealth, or should I start considering that wealth from that money from the next year?
When you get the money back, you have to pay zakat on it for 2 years.
For 2 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
or you start including that zakat so you don't wait until you get it back, because maybe sometimes when you get it back, the amount of zakat you have to pay is too much, right? So you say, okay, I'm getting it back in 2 years. I'm gonna do a prepayment now, and I'm gonna do prepayment next year.
Okay.
It becomes easier on you to pay zakat. Yeah. Yes.
For a recipient, if I want to give the money to donate, do I look at their silver amount for the nisab, the silver amount, or should I see the gold amount?
Usually the jurists recommend what's best for them. What is أرفق بالفقير? What is best for them? If it's best for them that you compute your nisab based on silver because they're in need, then yeah, you use the silver nisab. But if you want to use the gold nisab, you can also do that. It's up to you.
And I think that for this if somebody has they were rich people, but now they have some kind of disaster in the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Going through a lot of problems, financial problems. Although they're not that poor, in that situation, can we give them money? Is that the
Are they in deficit? So let me take a step back. You see, zakat, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals zakat, talks about faqir and miskin, right? And we sometimes think, mashallah, I'm living a good life. It's never going to happen to me. And then all of a sudden we have an earthquake and we lose our houses, we lose our business. Or sometimes I'm a farmer and I have, a flood happens or something happens and I lose all the crops. Or I may be living in a very nice country and all of a sudden there is a civil war and I become a refugee in a different country, right? So that's why zakat, people think, well, this is never going to happen to me. Well, it's happening everywhere in Syria and Iraq and everywhere. People in Afghanistan, people were rich, all of a sudden they became poor. Right? So in the Hanafi school, so they need to have below the nisab. In other schools, they need to be in deficit. Let's say I need $1,000, I need $100 for my expenses, for myself and my family, but I can only find $80 a month. I'm in deficit of $20. That deficit can be compensated from zakat. Or I could be, I'm poor. I'm in deficit. I need $100, but I can only find $20. The job I can, that's available to me only paid me $20 a month or $20 a week. I'm in deficit 80%. That 80% can be compensated from zakat in other schools. So are you in deficit or are you not in deficit? If you're able to cover all your expenses, you're not eligible for zakat. But if you are in deficit, then you're eligible for zakat in other schools. So in the Hanafi, they look, do you have nisab or you don't have nisab? In other schools, they look, are you in deficit or are you not in deficit? Because you may have money over the nisab and you pay zakat. But since you're in deficit, you also can take zakat because you are in deficit. Yes?
One other question coming to my mind, sorry. A person, if I'm a Hanafi school of thought,
You what?
Hanafi, like following Abu Hanifa jurisprudence. So one of my family member, who is a Shafi'i,
Okay.
let's say,
Right.
and he or she needs zakat. So which condition applies? Which school of thought should I be proceeding? Like if I am going to pay my way, like if I'm above nisab, I'm giving, or if she or he is in deficient.
In difficulty, right? In
Yeah.
deficit, in deficit. And they may have money above the nisab, right?
Right.
But they don't have money to cover expenses
Correct.
and live a life.
Right.
Live a life. It's up to you now. Up to you. You can maintain like you pay it like according to the Hanafi school, or you can pay it according to to their needs. Huh? Yeah. Def- Deficit. So you have two types of needy people. These are impoverished people. You have people who have no money at all. Who have no money at all. Why? Because, for example, they got into an accident and they're paralyzed. They can't work. They can't do anything. They have no money at all. So dirt poor. So you have this kind of, and then you have people who can find work, but their work will not be able to cover their expenses. Their expenses for themselves, for their wife, for their children. It can cover up to 50%. So these are considered one categories of poor. This is category 1. And there is category 2, that there are people who can find jobs. I mean, they're skilled, they're experts, but the job they're finding, they're working, only covers maybe 60% of their expenses, 70%, 80%. So their salary is more than 50% of their needs. So they're in deficit with a difference. Like they can cover 80%, but they're in deficit by 20%. This guy, the first category, they're in deficit by, let's say they can cover 20%, their deficit is 80%. Right? So one of them is called faqir, the other one is called miskin. So in the Hanafi school, this one would be miskin. They call it miskin. This one they call faqir. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين. Faqir is poor, but they manage a little bit, not too much. Miskin is like dirt poor, like they have an accident, they're paralyzed, or maybe they were driven away from their homes, they're now refugees in another country, they lost their business, they lost their houses, they lost their money, everything. In the Hanafi school, we look at the nisab. Do they have over the nisab or below the nisab? And we pay them based on that criteria. In other schools, the nisab doesn't matter here. We look at the deficit. Are they in need or are they not in need? If they are in need, we cover their deficit. We cover their deficit. They may have the nisab and they may pay zakat because they have the nisab. So from the angle of having the nisab, being above the nisab, they're paying zakat, right? But from the angle of being in need, they are eligible for zakat. So they pay zakat from that angle, and themselves pay zakat from another angle because they are above the nisab. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? But can their family cover their tuition fees or no? Okay. Right. Yeah, then they're eligible for zakat.
So you can directly give the school the zakat, and the school can just give
You can work it out, but they need to have the money in their hand. There needs to be a transfer of ownership. It has to be given to the parents or to the boys themselves, and then they pay the tuition fees. Let me give you an example. You are in need of zakat, right? You are in need of zakat. What's the example I'm going to give? Let's say you owe me $1,000, but you are in need of zakat. So I'll say, I'm going to give you $1,000 on the condition that you pay me back what you owe me, right? If I put that condition, my zakat is invalid. I cannot put that condition. And if you say yes or no, it doesn't matter. If I pay you $1,000 and I have a transfer of ownership, this $1,000 is yours. You can do with it whatever you want. Whether you pay me back or you don't pay me back, it's up to you. I cannot put condition on you, right? So there has to be this transfer of ownership, and you or the recipient will decide how to spend that money if they are in need. If they are in need, right? Now, if that money is for education purpose, you can stipulate that as a condition. Because that's the only condition that makes them recipient, right? Unless you're paying zakat to the family because they are in need, that's a different story. They can spend it on education, they can spend it on anything else they wish, after the money becomes theirs. So we cannot dictate to the recipient of zakat how they spend their money, that money. Because it's not us in the first place, not ours. It's their money in our pocket. And all we're doing, we're returning it back to them. Whatever they do with it, it's up to them, not up to me, not up to you. Does that make sense?
So maybe the flip side of the question is, how does Zaytuna College ensure that they can collect the
I think they have a sophisticated system. I was told about it once, but I don't recall all the details. Yeah, but seems okay, seems good. But if you have questions, you can ask them. Like, I'm not part of the administration; I just teach.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because this school is in a place where there's high drug addiction. So if you give people the money, they'll just get drugs from that money.
Okay, I see. Now, you can give it to the school. You can give it to the school as, say, a school is in need and there are students in need, right? As long as the school gives it to them so that they can pay their tuition fees or they can pay their books, or they work it out in a way that, fiqh-wise, makes sense. But that's the only way it can work.
So
Yes?
I understood this way is like the example which you gave for MCC. MCC is a board which acts as a receiver and also as a distributor.
Yeah, you're an agent for both.
Yeah, so I think Zaytuna also has the same condition. Like they will be receiving and they have the body which will be giving to the people who are in need. So we are as the zakat payee, we have the trust on that organization, not only Zaytuna and XYZ, whichever organization. Like we have seen many madrasas asking for zakat. So they are playing the similar role as MCC, what Sheikh Talal has given the example. So MCC has the role of receiving it and finding the body, whoever is identifying the needy and distributing the zakat. Yeah, it's the same example I felt.
Okay.
Is that
Inshallah, let's stop here.
okay?